It is bizarre. There are so many states in the Middle East, in particular, where people are oppressed on a grand scale, as you pointed out, and suffering in wars, and indeed Muslims being oppressed by, interestingly, other Muslims, whether it's different sects or just democratic, non-democratic leaders, dictatorial leaders. And yet Israel is always the nation that's held up as the problem in the Middle East. It's this tiny, don't they have like less than 1% of the territory of the Middle East? But apparently Israel is the problem. But it's the only state where Arabs and Jews can live freely and openly.
Yes, I mean, I hit down all of the sort of idiot and anti-Semitic, anti-Israel arguments in this book, one by one.
Apartheid state.
Apartheid, you know, and genocide and all this sort of stuff. All of it is fallacious, all of it's untrue, all of it's a libel. But it comes on to the second thing I wanted to say about that, which is, what is it that about Israel gets under their skin so much? One thing is, of course, is that among Muslims in the UK, as a great enemy of mine, Mehdi Hassan, once said in 2013, in a moment of rare truthfulness, he said in a column in the New Statesman that anti-Semitism is, quote, our dirty little secret in the Muslim community in Britain. He said, every Muslim reading this will know what I'm talking about. It is, quote, rife and commonplace. Now, I believe him. I believe him on that. Yeah. There is a vast reservoir of anti-Semitism within the Muslim community here, and that's what's driven a lot of this. But in the Middle East, what irritates so many Muslims is that here is this tiny, tiny state, and founded in 1948, it's done incredibly well. It's thriving, it's multiracial, multi-religious. It has, as people have observed since the 50s, made the desert bloom. Standard of living is higher than its neighbours by a long way, and the neighbours notice this, and instead of thinking, how can we be more like them, think, this is an affront, this is an affront to us. Now, I say that that's a problem for the Muslim world, and they can either deal with it or not, and I hope they deal with it. But for the non-Muslim world and for the world in the West, I think that Israel also produces a challenge, and the challenge essentially is this. The younger generation in Israel were tested on October the 7th. Yep. I tell stories not just of the unbelievable suffering, but of the incredible heroism. For the last 18 months, I've been with the IDF as I've seen young men and women putting their lives on the line, risking their lives, often losing them, to get back the hostages and to kill the leadership of Hamas.
A lot of people don't realise, you know, every young citizen in Israel, if you want to have an Israeli passport, you have to serve.
Yes. And by the way, it's a tremendous bonding thing for the country. It really knits the country together. I've been with Druze soldiers, Arab soldiers, Jewish soldiers. But for me, one of the reasons why this book is actually sort of optimistic in the end is that I believe that the people of Israel in the last 18 months have faced an unbelievable trial, and that they have come out of it showing us a good example. And what I mean by that is the young men and women of Israel, in the IDF in particular, have shown that when your country is at threat, when your people's future is at threat, you fight. Now, this country, we have these polls that have come out in the last year and a half asking young Brits whether, between the ages of 18 and 40, if we faced an existential threat in this country like our forebears did, would they step forward and fight? And a minority of young British people said they would. Now, I think that's because our young people in Britain have been demoralised and demotivated. They've been told that we don't have any heroes. They've been told that Churchill's the bad guy of the 20th century. They've been told we're slavers and colonialists and much, much more. We've been lied to about our own past, and we've been lied to deliberately. And the aim is to demotivate British society, just as the aim has been to demotivate American society. But here's the good news. We can remotivate ourselves as well. We don't have to be in this horrible state of despondency and inadequacy and failure. When the moment of trial comes, as it did for Israel, the young Israelis raised themselves to the moment. And I would suggest that among young British people and so on, they have choices in front of them. One is the choice to become the biggest victim you can, to wallow in despondency and self-pity.
I can't serve, I've got ADHD.
As somebody said in the response to one of those surveys, 9% of people who said that they wouldn't serve in Britain if our country was under immediate existential threat said they couldn't because there was someone at home they were looking after.
They were a carer.
I mean, I kind of think that if Granny's going to be raped and murdered, it's better that you fight to stop that rather than make sure she's going to get her hobnob in the evening. I mean, this is preposterous thinking, and we've been encouraging it. We've been encouraging victimhood, and we should be encouraging courage and bravery and pride.
Young Israelis felt there was something, it was existential, and they needed to fight, and when the call came, they were not found wanting.
Yes.
I would still nevertheless worry about given where we are with our many young people and indeed many older people in this country. What do you think also in terms of the West found wanting, in terms of Western media in particular, BBC, Sky News and others, their reporting of this war, so different from their reporting of, say, Ukraine or indeed any other war?
Yes.
Are the American and British bid to oust ISIS, for instance?
Yes.
I don't remember seeing every single report every day the exact number of children who had
killed
died.
In Mosul.
Killed in, and you mentioned the IDF. Now, the stats are very, very clear that the IDF has a record that is second to none in terms of any war ever fought, in terms of the ratio of civilian deaths to military deaths in its warfare, because of so many measures it takes to safeguard civilians. And yet constantly we are hearing about genocide. We are hearing about, the BBC still won't call Hamas a terrorist organisation. Some people claim it's a terrorist organisation, they say laughably. What do you make of how how Western governments, how Western media has been found wanting?
Several things. One is they fail to understand the nature of war. They completely fail. I see.
These are hard-bitten war reporters, some of them.
Some. But they completely misunderstand the nature of war. And crucially, they don't seem to believe that Israel has the right to fight for her own defence. I've been in Ukraine as well since the conflict began in 22. I was there again the other week. When I come back from the Ukrainian front lines, everybody I speak to in the West wants to know how the Ukrainian army is doing and whether they're pushing back the invading armies of Vladimir Putin. And our leaders are, whether you agree with it or not, are in lockstep with the Ukrainian government because Ukraine was invaded by a barbarous army. Well, Israel was invaded by a barbarous terrorist army. And just as I don't find it hard to be on the side of the Ukrainian people when they're fighting to liberate their homeland, I don't find it hard to be on the side of the Israeli people when they are seeking to liberate their homeland from jihadist terrorists. And the other thing is, quickly, of course, what you hear from the BBC types is, but maybe the Palestinians are just asserting their right to self-determination. There's lots of ways you can get a state. The Jewish people and the Zionist movement from the 19th century onwards showed how you get it, how you get a state and how you make it survive. The Palestinians have had multiple chances to get a state in 1948 and every decade since, right up until the 2000s, and again in recent years. But it's almost like there's a lesson here, Julia. If you want to get a state, don't try to genocide and annihilate your neighbours. Don't teach your young maths by things like, if you kill 2 Jews and then kill another 2 Jews, how many dead Jews have you got? Don't spend your evenings assembling rockets. Don't put RPGs under your baby's crib. Don't steal your neighbour's children. Don't hide people and torture them in captivity for a year and a half. Don't hold dead bodies as if they're prized objects that you can hand out in swap for terrorists who are being held in Israeli jails. It could all stop tomorrow if Hamas gave back the hostages and the people of Gaza brought up their children to believe in living in peace with their neighbours rather than trying to annihilate them.
This is the thing. It is really that simple. I always respond to people on social media. Have you tried giving the hostages back? But also, as a crucial aspect, what would it have been acceptable for Israel to do after that attack? Because I know darn well what every single Western nation would have done in the same circumstances.
If we had thousands of British people held in captivity in France in underground tunnels being tortured and raped every day, I would hope that we would go into France and have a very stern response.
Absolutely. Can I